Hello there guys, it's the GamersAm here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the new Resident Evil 7 trailer which just released. Just a quick disclaimer before we start, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, please go and watch that before viewing the rest of this video. So at the start of the trailer we can hear a young woman, I think it's the same one from the previous trailer. She's leaving some sort of distress message for Ethan, so maybe what's happened is that she's gone into a place where she wasn't supposed to go. Maybe Ethan tried to warn her to not go there and she goes there anyway. What this sounds like is this is her last message before she gets captured or killed, or both. Then after we get to see the surrounding areas of the plantation as well as inside it. We also get our first look at the gun combat. We get to meet the Baker family as well as some other types of enemies it looks like. Yeah, we'll just take it from there and we'll get into it. So the opening scene, where it opens up with that lovely shot with the car driving off in the background, is very reminiscent to a lot of horror movies, but in the sake of this game, it's very similar to the beginning of Resident Evil 5. I thought that was worth noting. Also the car that's going along at the start of the trailer, it's like as if you can see the exact same car later on. I think it's Jack Baker who gets out from the driver's seat, you know, he's on fire, and then your character shoots at him. Yeah, we'll get into that a bit more later on, so we're just going to break it down step by step. As we're being introduced to the plantation environment, we get to see some really gruesome images on top of what the female is narrating. So it does that strange Inception-like sound effect, and then we go inside of the plantation. Now, we see a guy who just bursts out through the wall, and it really reminded me of Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. So he's a classic textbook stalker enemy. I mean, he's got a shovel in his hand, he just bursts out through the wall, and I'm not sure if it is Jack Baker or another person, and he seems to be very powerful. I mean, he swings at the character a lot of times before, you know, cutting to the next shot. So definitely there's a lot more enemy types than we imagined. We'll also see the character pick up a weapon. That's when we actually get to see the gun gameplay, which to me it actually looks pretty decent. I'm not going to lie, it looks really good. It looks like it will hold up well in this first-person view for Resident Evil, which is first for its numbered titles. But here's where it gets a little tricky. I mean, we see a police officer, and then we see, you know, the flaming guy, and I'm not quite sure what's going on. It looks like it's shifting perspective from Jack and then to the police officer. I mean, when he gets dragged out of the car, you can just make out the bottom of his shirt, and it matches the bottom of the police officer's shirt, so that was something to note there. So there's a lot of editing trickery going on here. So it looks like there's some sort of car park section for the plantation, or maybe this is before you even reach there. I mean, the only thing I can get from that is I'm guessing Jack was arrested on some sort of murder suspicion or some allegation, something like that. He gets thrown to the back of the sedan, and just before they're about to leave, he goes a bit apeshit, and then he gets out of the car and then just starts attacking the police officer. Then he reaches for his gun and starts attacking. Although I'm not quite sure what explains how, you know, the car that you see in the very beginning ends up in this section here just before he starts shooting. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe something else has happened in between that time. But then we get our first look at the gun gameplay, and it's just standard pistol shooting at the guy. But he seems to be very resilient to bullets, of course. You know, it's a different strain of the virus, so they seem a lot more intelligent this time around. But anyway, we'll touch on that later. The car explodes, and then it obviously fades into the infamous, I call it the sit-down cutscene. So during this sit-down dinner time table cutscene, whatever you want to call it, we see Jack Baker in the middle, Marguerite Baker on the right, and then their son Lucas on the left-hand side. I mean, it's a pretty disturbing scene. I mean, you can feel the tension in this scene as well. I mean, there's a lot of disgusting stuff, body bits in the center, and then you obviously got a dead old guy on your character's left-hand side. So it's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What happens is that Lucas starts actually throwing food at the camera, so he's throwing at you, at the character. And then what happens after is that the father goes to cut his arm off, and while he's cutting his arm off, Luke is like, oh, great, this again. Well, he says something along those lines. Not again! So I'm assuming all three of them are infected with some strain, well, with the strain of the virus, I should say. And I think they can regenerate their body parts, similar to those regenerators in Resident Evil 4, but I'm guessing they're not as grotesque looking, because those things were pretty damn scary in Resident Evil 4, I'm not going to lie. Once that's all said and done, Marguerite gets absolutely pissed that you're not eating, and then she sort of storms off, and then the father, you know, Jack, he shoves a blade down your throat after not being able to eat. I mean, it looks like it because it just cuts to the next shot. And then just before that, we see a random girl at the end. So I'm guessing it's probably the ghost from the demo or something like that, because I never actually got to see the ghost when I was playing the Resident Evil 7 Homecoming demo. Or maybe it could be the girl that was narrating in the beginning, we just don't know. So yeah, there's quite a lot of information in this trailer that you can dissect. If I've missed anything, do let me know. But from what I'm seeing, the environment's opened up a bit more. I mean, the graphics look really nice. I'm not one to sort of go on about graphics, to be fair. I mean, it's more about the gameplay and enjoyment factor, but it has to be noted that the graphics do look really nice running on the RE engine. Yeah, I mean, the gun gameplay actually looks pretty fluid. I mean, we don't get to see any HUD, no HUDs. Maybe that's, for the trailer, they always take HUDs off, But to be fair, I always like my HUDs very minimal in games, so maybe it might be a case of when you're not aiming, you don't see any information on your screen, and then as soon as you go to aim, maybe it stays on after a few seconds once you've finished your combat. I think it's too early to tell if this game's going to be great or not. I mean, for the people who just keep constantly bashing the game, like whenever Resident Evil or Capcom post up a, screenshots or a trailer on their Facebook or Instagram page, just go to the comments section and you'll see a lot of hate. I was trying not to swear there. And it's just, I'm having trouble understanding it. Like, I get it from one point of view. Like, oh, it's not like the older titles, it ain't real Resident Evil. Well, stick to your old ones. I mean, I'm keeping an open mind. I mean, this could be great. And this is a brilliant starting point for new players that have never played a Resident Evil game. So maybe this could interest them into the series. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I mean, that's all I've got to say about this trailer that we've just seen. So, are you guys excited for the game? Are you keeping an open mind, or are you not excited at all for this game? Let me know in the comments section below.